up, insiders, and welcome back to another episode of the Price List Update Summary. We've got a new price list for you guys. It is December of 2020. What up? You've got Harrison here.
Whatley here.
And we're going to jump into some of these line items. If you don't know Actionable Insights, this is your first time jumping into a price list video, we are a 501c6 nonprofit, a steward of the property insurance industry, and we're here to help. We work closely with Xact, and we look at these line items that come out every month, and we want to give you guys the opportunity to look at what new line items came out and how are they intended to be used. If you are interested in learning more with Actionable Insights, you can check out our Insight Sheet database, a database of Xactimate invoicing templates at getinsights.org. And if after watching this video, you think we know some stuff about Xact, you can join us for an Xactimate class. Our next class is coming up February 2021, and we actually have an early bird discount that if you register in December, we have a coupon code 2021 now. You can get $150 off the normal $750 class price. So with all the good information out of the way, let's now jump into the new line items in December. On the left side of my screen, I have an Xactimate estimate open with some of the new line items. On the right side of my screen, I have the eService Center link to the price list update summary that Xact puts out. So let's provide some perspective and context to these new line items. Let's start with the distribution transformer here. And when you click this here, no item image yet, brand new line item. But it looks like we've got pole mounted distribution transformers. What are your thoughts on these line items here, Whatley?
That they're rather obscure, and I'm not really sure why they were adopted, to be perfectly frank with you. But if you happen to find a need for a distribution transformer that's on a pole, no less, then here you guys are. My surprise is that these weren't distribution transformers that you would find like in a commercial environment in a warehouse. I don't know if those line items exist. They may or may not, but I would have thought that would have been the addition, because I've never run into a claim, large loss or not, where we needed to replace a transformer with a pole
mounted transformer.
Yeah, like what's the scenario? I don't know, like Tacoma hits pole hits commercial building, something like that. I'm sure there's a better answer than that for the pricing department to deploy their valuable resources to adopting these three line items. But here they are, if you need it.
This is a good point. You know, in our preparations for this video, we actually reached out to the pricing department and we're like, hey, you know, which kind of distribution transformers are you talking about? This was one of the images that came up as a part of the conversation. So as you mentioned, these pole mounted distribution transformers, three various options here that users of Xactimate now have to use in a claims environment should it come up. That's three of the four new line items. The fourth line item here is FNC STOL Plus, which is the window, stool, and apron stain grade here. We've got a little image here. We can talk. It shows that it includes the wood, the finish nails, and the installation labor. And if we're taking a look at the buildup here, it's looking like some labor and materials in this window, stool, and apron stain grade line item.
Yeah, windows are kind of a black box. Well, they're not a mystery as much as it's Pandora's box. Like, there are so many different components for windows. So I encourage you guys, when you're estimating, adjusting, make sure you keep an eye out for all of the details. The stool of a window is kind of the flat part of the apron. The apron is more like your casing around the bottom. And so this is a line item for, incorporating the wood that would be stain grade. So it wouldn't be pine, it'd probably be something harder and a higher quality wood that had a nice grain in there. So there you go nuts. If you're going to stain it, so a couple things to keep in mind. You got all the pre-stain line items that the pricing department's released over the last year. So keep an eye out for your pre-stain line items where warranted. If you're really feeling spicy, it may warrant a sand in between coats of like 400 grit to make sure that the urethane or stain will stick. So there are a myriad of things that can trigger when you come into a window. And doors are that way too, Harrison.
Yes.
And if you guys want to keep an eye out for some of those commonly overlooked line items, you can go to the commonly overlooked line item database that Harrison pushed out with the team about 6 months ago. And it's a list of about 135, no, maybe 235 rather, more, 250
Yeah,
line items. Yeah, 235 line items that are commonly overlooked, and a lot of those relate to windows and doors. So check it out, see what you might be missing.
Yes, for those unfamiliar, to access some of our invoicing and estimating tools and resources, we have subscription plans at getinsights.org. The commonly overlooked line item database is a part of the Plus plan. So for $35 a month, you can get access to basically the majority of the tools and resources that we put out there at getinsights.org. Nice work. We've got 4 line items that came out in the personal property department. We don't always look at all the personal property stuff in detail, but this is kind of a fun one for me, the nerd, the scientist that likes to play and check out the cool new toys. And speaking of new toys, Microsoft and Sony have put out new consoles. Now, for my parents out there, this is December. This is getting close to Christmas. If you don't know, my birthday's on Christmas. So Christmas is important to me as it's mostly my birthday. But if your kid asks for a new Xbox, likely they are asking for the Xbox Series X, not the Xbox One X. I know that could be a lot, but I just want to save some kids out there from the parents that might be watching this video that are trying to put their claims together. Trust me, your kid is specifically looking for Toy VGSX, the Xbox Series X. Now, it's kind of fun that these line items are out here in general because the Sony PlayStation 5, maybe you know, and if you've been trying to get it, you know, it's almost impossible to get. They sell out everywhere. Retailers like Walmart and others drop them randomly. So we actually have a line item to invoice for a PlayStation 5 before most people can even get their hands on a PlayStation 5. But should anybody have an unfortunate Christmas tree fire after getting that PlayStation 5 in that house, they will have your estimator, adjuster will have the opportunity to invoice appropriately for that personal property that was lost in that Christmas tree fire. So fun stuff. Welcome to December. It's the end of the year. 2020 is almost over. Everybody's waiting for it. But at least we've got some new PlayStation and Xboxes, both consoles and line items to bring smiles to people's faces.
I don't know if these PlayStation 5 line items are spot on because I just saw something on Reddit on the way into this meeting that showed somebody just bought on eBay a PlayStation 5 original packaging box only for $500. The box.
Yes.
Like 22 people bid on it. What is happening?
That's the problem. The scalpers and bots and algorithms have been written to pick up every PlayStation 5 as it gets released for every single website. I've been following this for weeks. And so now PlayStation 5s, they normally are the disc versions, $500. They're going for $1,500 on eBay. So everybody's doubling their money by buying these and selling these. It's impossible to find. So you will get eBay for box only.
Yeah.
People are buying it by accident because they don't read all the fine print. So
wow.
Holidays, man. Holidays.
Awesome. That's wacky stuff. Hey, just to circle back around on the distribution transformer, I pulled that up while you were going through this Xbox nonsense. Yeah, they have a bunch of the pad mounted transformers. I see like 12 of them here, but they're all for 480 volts. So those are the kinds that, you see at the Yarrow Drive address in the warehouse that are pad mounted in a commercial environment. So the step down is 480 volt, and then that brings it down to 220 and 120 for our warehouse there. These things are, look, they're 7,200 volt. And so that's like the pole mounted. Yeah, you wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of that one.
It's a lot of power, baby.
Yeah, those are gnarlier for sure, but they definitely have those smaller ones, as one would expect. So anyhow.
Thank you for doing some deep dive on that and getting some additional stuff up there. Let's move December to the right here and take a look at what has changed from November to December. It's one thing to add new line items to a 20,000 line item price list, but they also make modifications and edits to existing line items. To start here, there were significant changes to a lot of the flashing line items. And you'll see here added material component to the plus or replace assembly and text to include the field to reference that the item includes sealant. So there are a variance of flashing line items here that all had new component additions. I'll pull up the first one here to take a look. On the left side is November, and on the right side is December. And as you can see here on the right side, there is one new component. You have roofing sealant, ROO. So here is the component code RFG SEEALT, and this has been added to all of these here.
Yeah, so why would the question present itself? I don't know, man. I don't know exactly what happened here. So I've got to preface this is conjecture, but my guess is that restorers were using a separate line item for like their Henry's roofing sealant to augment a lot of these activities. Carriers pushed back against that. The pricing department did something pretty noble and down the middle, which is like, okay, well, I'm going to include it in there, but instead of just adding a note that says this includes roofing sealant, they bothered to go and take the time to include the components update for the additional material, right? So the price that reflected in the price positively for restorers, and so they struck the balance that they always are attempting to do between the two sides of the claim that have diametrically different ways of making money. So I assume that's where we're at, but I don't know, guys. So don't take that to the bank with what exactly happened here. But it looks like a step in the right direction. We know that we would need some roof sealant. We know that that can take a number of different forms, but that price probably would accommodate whatever sealant you guys would want to throw at it. So I think it's pretty solid. Who could be mad about that?
Not many people. I mean, when you have line items that have new material components, adding components to a line item is usually a good thing for a line item to include more, or to at least be more clear. The clarity in a line item, what's included, is always important. So it's nice to see a component added as well as the text change added. Note here, I'm pulling up the ridge flashing line item, RFG FLRIG, to note that it wasn't just that particular sealant, it was all kinds of sealant. This one was added roofing cement in particular. But it's just nice to see that you can look at the e-service center link here and take a look at all of the flashing line items that have been updated, as well as some window category line items like the skylit flashing kit and the roof window step flashing kit have all had sealant components added to them. One of these examples, specifically the chimney flashing copper line items, did have a change in the sealant. There was sealant originally. As you'll see here, you had some roofing cement tube, and they updated it to the roofing sealant. So that was just a simple change in the copper-related flashing line items. Lastly here, the additional item information changes, no changes to the line item itself for the most part, but we have two changes to the temporary power line items, both residential and commercial. And it's one of our favorite changes, Whatley. It says specifically, added text to the field to reference that the item is based on a state or province monthly average for power usage, and that the price may need to be modified to match specific costs. And we've dived into this before on this series about there are certain aspects that are hard to come up with a very acute average in a region. Things like dumping fees, when dumping fees change from landfill to landfill that might be 5 miles away from each other. Those things are hard to measure with a really acute price. So we've seen this movement by Xactware and Barris to add some of this language that gives contractors and adjusters the space to discuss what is the cost of performing this activity and putting in the line item that you may need to adjust it based on regional realities.
Yeah, and I can only think of 10 line items off the top of my head that bother to say user is encouraged to confirm regional pricing. And so what that really means to me in a claims environment is if I'm a claims professional working for Crawford, or I'm a TPA and I'm an analyst and I'm scrubbing sheets for Alacrity, those 10 line items, maybe 15, that encourage the user to update the price as warranted, there's two things you got to keep in mind. Xactimate out of the box is typically not going to select for the most expensive arrangement. They're going to typically default to something that's on the lower side of building. This is how all the algorithmic math works for truss work and framing and so on. It assumes whitewood and the cheaper, CDX plywood. It doesn't default to 5/8-inch tongue and groove plywood on your truss work unless you select for it.
Mhm.
So ultimately, this line item is really creating some space for those on the adjuster side. If your restorers are deviating from the price list responsibly, and these line items happen to have this caveat, it's because there's a systemic pattern of this being really difficult to price. Therefore, I encourage you to be a little bit more fluid when your attempt to approve those claims through. We get it, program environment, that's what they signed up for, cram them down. That's how you provide value for your carrier. I think that's broadly understood, right, by everybody, no matter where you are and that side of the claim, and that's okay. All right, you're sending people work, right? You should be able to get some concessions, but on these few line items, I encourage the carrier and TPA side of the claim to be a little more conscious of these 10 or 15 line items that actually call out that, hey, this could be insufficient. So keep an eye out for that moving forward.
Good call, good guidance, and good space for free discussion in this industry. If there's anything actionable Insights is about, it's allowing people to enjoy what they do. So it's nice to have that freedom to discuss the realities of a job.
So what they did here, man, they signed up for a lot of work for perpetuity. So I think that this temporary power usage, guys, this was defined at a national level, and they just threw it in there and in aggregate threw something up against the wall close. Now for their 475 price lists that they're maintaining, it looks like they're going to that individual state municipality, getting some data, inviting data into the conversation. And so you're going to see prices for this electrical kind of vary significantly. So if you're a claims professional and you're looking at this, sometimes, hey, it's $220, but you find yourself somewhere out in New York and you see that it's $380 all of a sudden. It might not be because somebody changed the price. It's just because the pricing department is querying that particular region, and there's probably going to be significant changes. If there wasn't significant differences in the municipalities, I doubt they would have taken the time to do this. So I suspect that you're going to see price changes between 50 and 100% depending on the region.
Makes a lot of sense. That's everything that Actionable Insights has for you in this December edition of the Price List Update Summary. To note, it looks like there's some exciting things on the horizon here. Exact always gives us a preview of what's coming next, further changes and additions to look for in upcoming updates. So we got some line items for travertine pavers coming up that I'm excited to take a look at, as well as cleaning toolboxes, glass office wall and doors. That's kind of ongoing for the new line items for the commercial, that we continue to see more and more line items come out for commercial work in the Xactware price list. Wind screens for chain link fences and the 24 gauge agricultural model roof pin panels. We've seen some of those this year. If you learned something in this video, if you like what Actionable Insights is doing, tell us in the comments below, ask us questions, whatever platform you're watching this video on, let us know what you think, what new line items you're excited to use, and we'll share what insights we have and share what we can.
Yeah, and I suppose I'm late to the party with this, but Harrison, your team keeps going to great lengths to hyperlink all of these line items at getinsights.org is really the best place to watch these videos, because you can skip right to the new line items that you guys actually care about. So when we started out and Harrison was talking about come to our class in February and that's how you keep actionable alive. Yes, that's important, and that's important to us. And those of you that know all that what we do, you guys care to listen, but there's some of you that want to get to the brass tacks. So we created some space for that. You can just click right there on the line item and it will actually forward in the video to 5 seconds right before we talk about that particular aspect. I didn't even know this was possible until you cats came up with this, but this is pretty trick. So yeah, I like that. I've never seen anybody else do that, but I go back and that's the way I review this stuff. I'm like, what exactly were we doing? What happened to the yield? So on. It's really convenient that you can go right to where it came from. So enjoy that, folks.
Absolutely. Thank you everybody for watching, and we will see you guys next month.
All right.